Are you really awake? A question that seems so simple, but so difficult to prove. Hopefully, this waking existence is something we can grasp and hold on to. Stick around, the story may alter your perspective. Without further hesitation, let's begin. Listeners, I imagine you might be about to hear this while laying down in your bed. I imagine night has long since fallen, and like that of many others here, you are seeking out stories of the strange, the curious, and the unimaginable to entertain yourself to sleep. If I'm right and this is you, I hope the experiences I'm going to share with you don't somehow impact you in any way. I hope that after hearing this, you wake up tomorrow as normal, go about your life, and question nothing. I hope by sharing this with you, I don't somehow pass on whatever's happening to me. See, I'm still holding out for that to happen. Waking up, I mean. After all, this horror that is now my life all began with simply falling asleep. I'll attempt to explain, but at this point, the nightmare has been going on so long that I'm not able to pinpoint a time frame or starting point of exactly when it all started. Not confidently, anyway. I suppose the earliest I can remember is going to bed one night after staying up late, indulging in my habit of watching old school B movies on TV. My wife, as usual, had gone to bed long before me, and as per what has become our weeknight ritual, I entertained myself with a glass of whiskey in the lounge until I was tired enough to join her. It felt like a Wednesday, but I really can't be certain. The result is always the same these weeknights anyway. I eventually slide in next to my wife, and due to the combination of alcohol and exhaustion, I promptly fall asleep. This scenario had played out many nights before, since we had settled into our middle-aged suburban lifestyle. My wife never had any trouble falling asleep, but I always valued the few extra hours to myself before repeating the 9-to-5 work cycle the next day. So I drifted off that night, and my mind wasted no time putting me through a bizarre dream. That's the way it's been since I was a kid. I guess I have a vivid imagination or something, but my dreams have always been so nonsensical and strange that I had long gotten used to it. The dreams usually start off normally enough. In fact, recently, I noticed that the first part of my dreams had become increasingly mundane and realistic, that it could easily be mistaken for real life. Perhaps this happens with age. For example, on this occasion, the dream began with me at the post office getting ready to mail out some forms off to an obscure, boring company. Whatever I was supposed to be doing wasn't really apparent, but it seemed to make sense to me at the time. I'm sure you know what that's like when your dream self seems to already know what's going on when you're thrusted into a random dream scenario. Whatever it was typical, routine, and not exciting in any way. As per usual, however, it didn't take long for my mind to reveal itself to be dreaming, when the post office teller's jaw dropped right off his face, leaving a bloody mess on the counter, and an elongated tongue hanging out of a massive hole in his face. Dreamy frantically looked around the post office, only to see the same thing happen to all the other customers and staff members. Not one of them seemed to react to what was going on, but went about their business. At this point, of course, I realized I'm dreaming. One of the benefits of having strange dreams so often was that my dream self had gotten quite good at becoming self-aware. When something wasn't right, and when things got quite uncomfortable or frightening, I generally managed to simply wake up. So it was in this occasion, while my adrenaline had definitely spiked due to the grotesque and bizarre scenes taking place, I quickly was able to recognize I was having yet another weird dream and almost instantly woke up. After blinking in the quiet darkness of my bedroom for a moment, my heart rate slowed back to normal, and I rolled over and went back to sleep without so much as a second thought. The next day, I go about my business as usual. Wake up, get ready for work, have a quick breakfast, say bye to the wife, and start making my way to the office. Once there, I'm sitting at my computer. I routinely open up my email to check the daily staff bulletin, only for hordes of maggots to suddenly start pouring out of the screen and into my lap, while everyone in the entire office floor starts spontaneously screaming at the top of their lungs. And just like that, I realized that when I had gone back to bed, I must have ended up in another dream that started normal, but then turned once again into a nightmare. And just like the last one and many before, I wake myself up after catching my breath for a second time now. I rub my sleeping wife's shoulder, really for my own comfort, and roll back over. Man, 2 in a row, tough night, I think to myself, with a feeling of tired annoyance before drifting off again. The next morning, I wake up to a rotting, bloated corpse of my wife hovering over me and laughing. Once again, I wake up. If you don't already see where this is going, this has been the pattern now. This has been my life for as long as I can remember. Sometimes I will wake up, my day will go about as normal, and life will seem to go on for days, months, and even occasionally years before something bizarre happens. Like the sky opening up and a thick liquid blackness pouring through and smothering the earth. Other times, I've barely gotten out of bed before the freakish nightmare reveals itself, such as discovering I have misshapen human teeth rapidly growing out of my hands and face while my own teeth melt out of my mouth. This has been going on so long now, at this point, that while I use the Wednesday night that I described earlier as my reference point to when it first started, maybe that wasn't even the truth of it either. Time moves differently when you're dreaming. Maybe I'm still living there in bed, and I'm currently going through a seemingly endless sequence of nightmares, waiting to finally wake up after the longest night of my life. Maybe that night was just one of the thousands, and the cycle started a long time ago. Maybe that night never happened, but was yet just another dream. In which case, I really don't know when and where this began. You start to question everything when in this situation. What's real? What's not? Am I even real? Am I just a consciousness existing in a vacuum, creating my own imaginary world? Was I ever truly awake? Or am I in a coma or something? Will I properly wake up one day to discover I've been in an accident, and this whole thing is what people who are in comas go through, but they forget somehow? Or am I dead even, and this is what death is? Or am I insane, experiencing a mental illness such as euphorinia or a severe form of narcolepsy? I really don't know anymore. The constant exposure to strange and bizarre happenings means I rarely even get scared by it anymore. I expect it. The worst of it is when you manage to go several years before anything has happened, and you begin to think that the last time you woke up was finally for real. But then, inevitably, one day something nightmarish happens, like a black demonic figure suddenly replacing your reflection in the mirror one morning. Or, all the stars in the sky start exploding during a family barbecue one night. And you snap awake again, back in bed, realizing all those years you spent getting on with your life were a lie, and just yet another dream. All I know is that nothing crazy has happened yet in this current state of being awake. However, it's only been a couple of days, and I'd figure I'd hop on here and share this with anyone who'd care to listen. I could walk away from my computer after this, only to discover suddenly no one has a face anymore, or that there's hands coming out of my walls. Then, I'll wake up again, and none of this will matter. But if this does somehow get heard by someone like you, dear listener, who is lying at night preparing to sleep, I just hope when you eventually drift into dream world, that you well and truly do actually wake up tomorrow. Honestly, one of my favorite stories in a long time. Is this channel really active again? Or is it all imagined? Stay safe out there.